Are you feeling overwhelmed with all the bits and pieces of content that you're creating and not sure how it all fits together? It's really easy to get caught up in all the latest trends and tactics or what experts are telling you that you should be doing in the content marketing space. So, today I wanted to give you a way to pare all of that noise back and look at how you're creating content from a holistic perspective. This will really help you see opportunities for growth and scaling your content as well as new things that you might like to try. In this episode, you'll learn how to align all of your content efforts to meet your objectives while still being able to form meaningful connections with your audience. I'm going to walk you through the 6 steps to construct your personalized content ecosystem so that it is tailored to your unique strengths and resources. By the end, you'll have a map that allows you to see how all of your content interconnects. I'd love to know what you think about the concept of mapping your content ecosystem after you've listened to this episode and whether you've given it a try.
Welcome to the Powerful Content Podcast, your go-to source for content creation, strategy, and business inspiration. I'm your host, Mel Daniels, content strategist, coach, and speaker, empowering women across the globe to grow their business with powerful content that connects, nurtures, and converts. So, if you're ready to create standout content that gets you noticed and remembered, or build an aligned audience who love you and are ready to buy from you, you're in the right place. I believe that content has the power to connect us all. It's up to you how you use it. Listen in for genuine and insightful chats with guests, as well as practical tools and strategies from me. It's so lovely to have you here. Let's dive into the show.
I acknowledge the Wongal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the country that I am recording from today. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nation people listening today. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to episode 138 of the Powerful Content Podcast. Thank you so much for being here this week. We are well into the last quarter of 2024 now, and thankfully for our household, a couple of weeks away from my son finishing his final school exams. I have really loved being around to support him throughout this year, and I know that he really appreciates the endless cups of tea and study plates. Well, actually, I should explain what that is. Funny story here. A couple of years ago, we both went to a school study seminar that was about note taking and staying on top of study and techniques and tools to be able to do that. And the facilitator briefly mentioned during the session not to underestimate the benefit of fueling their brains. So we both walked away from the session with the same key takeaway that study plates full of healthy snack foods were the go. So it's been an absolute staple in my son's study routine in the last couple of years. And I know that my daughter is really looking forward to the same when it's her turn to do her final couple of years of study starting next year. Anyway, I digressed a little bit there, but I guess I really want you to know that whatever season of life that you're in right now, then really don't underestimate the power of being around for your family. Anyway, on to today's episode. I really wanted to talk about content ecosystems. Now, I know that I use this term quite a bit, and you've probably heard other people use this term, but I wanted to really dive into what it means to me and the benefits of having one and having one documented and how it can really set you up for not only easy content creation, but creation that is purposeful and strategic as well. So a content ecosystem to me is simply a map of all of the platforms that you show up on and how they interact with each other. It's really that simple. So my content ecosystem is going to look very different to yours, not just because I have the robust systems and processes in place that allow me to reimagine my content really efficiently and in different places, but because I have different objectives. I have different time and I have different energy and resources to you as well. So you might decide to map yours out as a result of this episode and discover that everything looks like a drunk spider has woven it, or you might discover that there's some really significant holes in the web that allow your ideal clients to fall through, or you might find that it's pretty robust and it's time to add more layers to it. Whatever the outcome, I really hope that this episode gives you the insight into how everything fits together and where the opportunities lie for improvement. Because when you zoom out and start to see your content as a series of interconnected pieces rather than focusing on a single platform or a tactic, you become far more strategic and less impacted by fads or trends in platform specific tactics. And I think that this is really important because we can get really caught up in the minute detail of a particular feature of a particular platform when really doesn't matter that much if we zoom out and really take a holistic view of our content and how it's working together. And I think that that's far more beneficial for you and your business as well. So why would we even want to map our content ecosystem? Well, it can bring you clarity, it can bring you consistency and efficiency to your content creation. And really, who doesn't want that, right? So having your content ecosystem mapped is going to give you a really clear understanding of how your content aligns with your business goals. Because it visually represents your content as a map, then you can identify gaps, inefficiencies, or overlaps in the strategy. So it's really going to bring you that clarity and focus. Now, the second thing is that with this clarity, you can quickly begin to see how your different types of content connect. And I think this is the really exciting part of it. It means that you can plan more effectively, which will then breed the consistency. So it helps to streamline that content repurposing, saving you time, saving you effort, and it can also allow you to spot the opportunities for optimizing your workflows and refining your processes as well. So this is particularly important for solopreneurs who want to avoid burnout or overworking, I think. So it's absolutely going to be the catalyst for your content planning and efficiency, two things that I absolutely love. So having a visual map may also help with your engagement, but word of warning here, go back to episode 124, 3 ways to increase your engagement, as to why I'm not sold on measuring engagement solely. But having said this, a map of your content ecosystem can really highlight where people interact with your content, how you can be more intentional, and how you can deliver the right content at the right stage of the client journey as well. So one of the best reasons though to map your ecosystem is so that you can zoom out, like I said, and really see that holistic view of your content strategy. It shows you all of the moving parts, such as the content, the channels, the audience, the objectives, in one cohesive view. And this really ensures everything that you do in your content creation sphere supports that broader strategy rather than each of them working in isolation. And lastly, mapping your ecosystem shows you how each piece of your content serves a specific purpose, whether that's driving awareness, whether that may be nurturing relationships or converting leads, helping you align your content with your objectives so that we're not just creating content for content's sake. We are creating content with a purpose. So let's just pick out some of those benefits again to remind you why it's a good idea to do this exercise. It's going to give you clarity and focus, content planning and efficiency, help with your engagement, gives you a holistic view of your content strategy, and shows how your content aligns with your objectives. So I hope all of that's already giving you motivation to want to go and map your ecosystem after you listen to this episode. So now you'll need to gather some information, and this may take a little while, but believe me, it will be absolutely worth it in the end. Generally speaking, you'll need to know your message, the type of content you like to create, the channels of distribution you use, including the specific features of the various platforms, how your audience interacts with your content, your purpose and content objectives, and then how everything interacts with each other. Now, the more platforms you play on and the more lead magnets that you have, the more complex this map is going to get. But if you can, grab a piece of paper, your colored Sharpies, or your favorite mind mapping software, and let's get creating. So let's go through each one of these steps in a bit more depth so you can get an idea of what you need. The first thing is to know your message. Now, this is the soul of your content ecosystem. So you need to have a really good handle on what you're about and how you communicate this. And I'll pop a couple of episodes that you can go back and listen to if you're still a little bit unsure or a little bit wobbly with your message. It's so important here that you start with a message that aligns with who you are as a person. I cannot stress this enough, especially if you're a personal brand or solopreneur. And if you want more information on how to do this, then you can go and grab my book, The Power of Content for Inspiration. But just know for now, your message is based on your core beliefs, those things that you believe to be true of your industry, your business, and available for your ideal client. I have 4 interweaving core beliefs that make up my message. And I know that if you've been around for a while, you hear these over and over and over again, which is the power of your message. So the first one is content has the power to connect us all. It's up to you how to use it. The second is when you move from a transactional based content marketing to one built on human relationships, you'll experience business and personal growth. The next one is you don't have to do hashtag all the things. When you take into consideration your time, energy, and resources, life will flow. And the last one is we make a greater impact when we come together. So all of this is going to be overarching my ecosystem across the top, simply because any content I create filters from one or more of these 4 core beliefs. Every single piece of content I create comes back to one of those 4 core beliefs. Okay, so that's the first bit. Understand your message and be really clear on that. The second part of mapping your ecosystem is identifying the content types. So what types of content do you create? It's going to be the blogs, podcasts, video, social media, lead magnets, email marketing. And the center of your map should be your main piece of content, or what I call your core content, that meaty, binge-worthy content that anchors everything else. And then your other types of content should naturally sprout outwards from these. I like to then map the connections between these channels so I can see how I'm making the most of each piece of content. So, for example, my podcast is my core piece of content and it's connected to my email marketing and social media, as that's how I promote it. There's a direct connection to my blog as each episode is rewritten into a blog. There's a connection with my lead magnet and my book as I use my podcast to promote these. Today's episode is a case in point. I've already talked about my book. And this is where you may come across your first stumbling block, as you may not find a direct connection between your core content and the other types of content that you create. Now, my suggestion is to use dotted lines here so that you can identify where you can strengthen the relationship between these types of content and make your content creation easier. Okay, so step number 3 is to map the content channels. So now that you know the different types of content you create and where they fit in the client journey, you can identify where the content lives. So, for example, my podcast channels would be my website, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, plus all of the other smaller podcast channels that my podcast goes out to. For social media, it would be Instagram Reels, stories and posts, as well as my Facebook page, Facebook group, the content project, and LinkedIn as well. So do this for each type of content so that you can see where there may be opportunities to scale your content. So for example, I might see an opportunity to use Pinterest. That would require additional time, energy, and resources, which I don't have right now, but it is an opportunity. There is a way for me to extend my current reimagination processes so that I can be consistent on Pinterest as well. Okay, step number 4 is to think about the audience touch points. So map where and how your audience interacts with your content. This follows the client journey. So it's about understanding how each content type serves a different purpose at each stage of the client journey. And if you'd like a roadmap to understand this better, I do have a free resource, which I'll link in the show notes. But typically, social media falls across connect, subscribe, nurture, and convert. Whereas your content, like this podcast, for example, is typically in the connect or nurture stages. So understanding how each content type contributes to the client journey helps you identify where you may need to shift your focus, double down on strengths, or maybe look at the gaps that interrupt that flow of your client journey. Okay, step 5, we're almost there. Purpose and goals. Now you can align each content type to a specific purpose or objective, such as brand awareness, nurturing relationships, or maybe even driving sales. If you're looking for different types of objectives that you can use, then you can find these in my one-page content strategy training and downloadable, which I'll also link in the show notes. And then the last step is your content workflow. Underpinning all of this map is the process of content creation, distribution, and reimagination that you use. So this is where you take note of things like your standard operating procedures and the more detailed steps to reimagine your content across the different channels that you use. Ask yourself, where are the gaps or the places where content can be reused or optimized? Mapping your ecosystem allows you to see the gaps, optimize those workflows, and ensure a consistent message across all the channels. It's especially helpful when creating a content strategy that connects, nurtures, and converts clients effectively. I know that sounded like a lot, those 6 steps, but if you'd like to understand more about mapping your content ecosystem and receive a free mapping guide, then come along to my masterclass next week, Content That Converts, as part of the New South Wales Small Business Month celebrations. In this masterclass, you're going to learn a more authentic approach to content marketing that will really give you the confidence to use content to your advantage. So we will be talking about things like simplified content creation, strategies for reducing overwhelm, and techniques for creating content that converts. Simply head to the show notes for the direct link. Okay, so now we've got the map. What's next? Well, I've got a few resources that can help you take that next step. If you're looking to create a robust content strategy, then you might like to try my super simple one-page content strategy training. You could come up with a year's worth of content ideas, and I have a mini course for this too. Or you could consider outsourcing to amplify your success and really identify those opportunities to scale your content, so you can come and get some personalized support inside of my membership, The Content Effect. Mapping a content ecosystem really empowers you to be more strategic, more intentional, and effective, so that you're not wasting your valuable time creating content that has no purpose or isn't aligned to what you're trying to achieve. It's really about visualizing and organizing the various elements of your content marketing so that you can see how different types of content, the channels, and audience interactions fit together to support your overall goals. So like I said, make sure that you join me for my masterclass next week and head on down to the show notes for all of the links to all of the resources that were mentioned in this episode. I hope you have fun mapping your ecosystem. Talk soon.
Thanks so much for listening. That's it for another week. To get more powerful content in your life, make sure you're following along on socials. My handle is @meldbusiness. And just in case you're wondering, the groovy music for this podcast was created by Just Here on SoundCloud. I'd also be super grateful if you took a moment to rate and review this podcast so more amazing women like you can experience the power of content. And if you're like, hell Mel, stop talking, I'm ready to work with you now, here's how we can work some powerful content magic together. Firstly, come and join the Content Effect, my membership inspiring women with service-based businesses to ditch the content chaos and start creating stand-out content that gets you noticed and makes sales. You can join us by using the link in the show notes or just Google the Content Effect. The second way we can work together is via my one-on-one packages. We can create a sustainable content strategy or start to build out your client journey. It's up to you. Hop on over to meldbusinessservices.com.au/services to find out more. Until next time, have a beautiful week and embrace the power of your content.